Hello and good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to this month's product update webinar on Open Enterprise Server, and indeed sometimes we do other things like iPrint there. Today we've got David Condrey is going to take us through the complementary products to Open Enterprise Server. We've got File Reporter, Storage Manager, and I think if we're lucky, he's going to do a little bit on Kanaka as well. But before we do get on to that, I'm just going to take you through a bit of news, which I suspect you know about already, and just give you a quick update on where we are with the development of things. If you've got any questions, then I think it's you've got the Q&A panel down on the bottom left on 3 dots. You can bring up the Q&A and ask questions there. We've got a great team behind the scenes today. We've got Ed and Buck who are going to be keeping an eye on those and hopefully responding to them if they know the answer, or asking questions if it's relevant. But let's just go through a few things. We've got our big conference in Las Vegas kicking off in mid-November. So that's OpenText World. So if you're in that sort of area or North America and you want to attend, do please go and register. For those of you that are in the DACH region, in Switzerland, Austria, Germany, we have got the efficiency tour kicking off, I think next Tuesday, in Vienna, and then going around a number of other cities. That's just a one-day event. Do register for that. I'll post the registration link in the chat window later on. We also have the Bangalore Developers Conference kicking off at the end of November, and that's a full 7-day event. And even though it's called a developer conference, it's not for developers, it's for you to meet our developers. So in Bangalore, we've got the whole of the OES development team, the iPrint development team, quite a bit of the GroupWise team, the Filer team is there, Retain, I think, is there as well, and many other products. So it's a really good opportunity to meet the teams that are developing the products for you. Around OES and iPrint, we've got a lot of workshops going on there. We've got quite a few sessions going on there around OES and iPrint as well, and sessions on loads of other products. I just put a few down here that you might be interested in. I think on Filer we've got 16 hours of content that's being delivered there, and obviously with OES you get Filer Standard, Advanced Authentication, another product you get with
Robin, are you showing some slides now?
I was, hopefully.
I don't see the slides.
That's a good thing, that maybe I should share my screen when presenting. There we go. Is that
working? Yep, we see it.
Okay, so sorry, thank you. I was too intent on recording earlier to actually share that. So we've got quite a few sessions around OES and iPrint and other products there as well. Again, I'll post the link for that. One thing to bear in mind is that I think today or tomorrow is the last day you can get the cheap rate at the conference hotel. So if you're thinking about going, I would book today and get that in there. Otherwise, you'll be paying a little bit more money on the hotel or staying at a hotel where the buses aren't going from and having to make your own way there. So let's just get into a quick development update. This was going to be delivered by Girish, the product manager, but as many of you know, in India at the moment, it's Diwali, big holiday. So we haven't actually got any of the Indian team on the call today. They're all having a good time partying away or whatever. So I'm going to take you through the development update quickly. We've got 24.4. I know it's saying it's in progress, but actually it got released today. Some of you may have noticed it in the online update channel yesterday, but officially it was released today and the components appeared in SLD. So you can upgrade to that. There's probably the main things we're looking at that were in there are some UMC changes and additions there. Identity console is available to install from the OES media, and we can do protection to CIF shares with smartphone authentication, migration to NSS 64 from 32 there. And then we've got additional releases coming out every 3 months. So the next release we're looking at is going to be 25.1 in most probably January, and then going on from there. I'm not going to go through everything here, but you've got that on the screen there. As far as 24.4 is concerned, we've got DFS management and SMS management in there. The LUM and BCC, some of you maybe clever enough to notice they're not actually in 24.4. They should be available in a update we're going to ship later on this year, 24.1. So just be aware of that. And we've also done some auditing for direct print jobs in iPrint. So they will be picked up by, if you're doing direct printing now, rather than before you couldn't audit that information. So that is that there. Let's move over to David. I'll just give you presentation rights, David.
All right, thank you very much.
Control, make presenter. Okay, have you got presentation rights now? You should have.
Okay.
And then if you have any questions, do place them in the Q&A instead of the chat, which I think is under the 3 dots on the bottom of your screen.
Okay. How first of all, just a sound check. How am I sounding okay? And then also, can you see the presentation on the screen?
Yeah, we can see your presentation and hear you. That's one better than me, David.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I want to welcome everybody today. This has been a long time coming.
A few are saying if you could be louder on the chat.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Let me see if I can change my microphone settings. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, fewer saying light audio, much louder.
Okay. Switch audio.
You sound okay on my end, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to be sure and get that right.
They just said perfect now.
Yeah.
You just did. There you go.
I can hear you fine, so.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Well, listen, I'll speak up and hopefully everyone have a chance to hear. Thank you for taking the time to join today. Girish and Robin and those guys we've been trying to get on the calendar and get things lined up to do this presentation for a few months now, but it actually is a great day to do that because of the 24.4 release, not only of OES, but of our products as well. My name is David Condrey. Some of you, I've looked at the attendee list. I see some old friends out there. So it's great to talk to everybody, and especially those old friends. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through kind of a review of our products in relation to the OES and e-directory platform. So it's kind of an update for some and an introduction for others. That's what I was asked to do. So what I'm going to do is obviously we've got our standard open text legal disclaimer regarding forward-looking statements or things in the content, things like that. But today's agenda is really kind of an introduction, and we're going to start with the introduction to the products and the missions of those products. But then we're going to look back a little bit and look at the history of how we got here to this point today, and then we're actually going to do those intros to File Reporter and Storage Manager. We also build the Kanaka Mac client. My team does for OES. If we have some time, I'll spend some time talking about that. But I really we've got a new version of that coming. Got an update for that coming shortly. So I may come back and talk about that in more detail at that time. And then obviously we'll have some time for some Q&A. But as was stated, please be feel free to enter stuff as we go along. So with that, let's talk a little bit about the introduction to what it is that we're trying to do, and in terms of the landscape, and then the mission of the products. So we'll talk about that. So this is really in in the context of data governance and data management and data access governance. So within the structure of our go-to-market, this is generally how I start out talking to people, is defining unstructured data. But most everybody here, if you're an OES person, you live and breathe unstructured data all the time. But I think it's important for you to maybe understand how we are talking to people that aren't as versed maybe as you are down in the trenches with OES and NSS file systems and other genres of file systems and things like that. But what we really want to talk about is when we talk to these people is having them kind of compare and contrast structured data and unstructured data and the growth that happens on our file servers and in these unstructured data stores all the time. So we kind of start out with that, and then we talk about why it's important. And obviously the importance has to do with the data itself. So we have this idea of genres of data that may be important at different levels in your organization that we're storing. Obviously personal or PII based data, PHI based data, etc., things like that, or the things that maybe get the press from a regulatory standpoint and things like that. But then there's the things that we all create every day that are the lifeblood of an organization. It's all of the intellectual property, the financial stuff, the strategy that we have in our organization. No matter if you're educating students or curing cancer or building airplanes or funding people through a bank or creating a great insurance company, you are creating all of these pieces of unstructured data all day, every day. All of us create these things. So while the importance of management of this data and governance of this data. You may get some press out here related to more of this regulated data. A lot of the stuff more to the right hand side is the heavyweight stuff. It's the things that are so important to the mission of our organization. And so a lot of times, if you don't effectively govern and manage the stuff on the left, you might face a fine. If you don't effectively control, especially access and governance of the stuff on the right, you might go out of business. So this is the message that we have around kind of the crown jewels of within an organization is this unstructured data. So as we go forward and we're thinking about this, we talk about, a lot of people talk about applications and application data and things like that. But, the reality is this unstructured data represents the majority of the footprint, majority of the lifeblood in an organization. And so, we want to be sure that we effectively manage this data over here on the right hand side in the right way. So with that said, we typically put a proposition in front of people, starting with understanding. A lot of these file shares, a lot of these unstructured data stores have been around for a long time. Nobody knows that better than the people on this call. So what happens is you have you have a lot of questions about your data that may need answered for a variety of reasons, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But where is it? How's it growing? How's it aging? Who owns it? Who has access to it, and how? And then if we were to provide the infrastructure and the tools for that, what would you as an organization be able to do? What could you avoid? Those kinds of things. Secondly, what if we could be confident that the people in the organization have the access to the data they need, and they don't have access to data that they shouldn't? So that has to do with, protecting those crown jewels that I talked about, understanding who and how, being able to passive audits, being able to actively monitor and automatically apply policy for continuous compliance, and then keep the right people in the organization informed. And that kind of leads into equipping and being of service to the line of business, areas in your organization, whatever those may be. And what if they could have the same confidence that through automation and be informed and engaged. And then lastly is, what if you could take massive action on your data as your organization grows and new challenges emerge? And there's lots of ways that you could do that to have an impact. The big thing is by applying policy-based automation for any number of things like lifecycle data management, and maybe if it's driven by identity management itself. Reducing data footprint. Reducing data footprint is not just about having less storage, it's reducing risk. What you don't have can't be breached. The ability to effectively archive and groom data appropriately, being able to restructure things and move things around as you need to evolve your organization and your infrastructure, and a lot more. So how would we go about doing that? So our mission with our products within file management is really around insight and action, as you might imagine. So, and the insight has to be at the intersection of identity and data. So the ability to bring not only information about the data, but the people that operate around the data, and then putting action in place to not only manage data, but effectively tie that back to identity in the right way. And we'll talk about different ways that we're going about doing that in a few minutes. So the platform ecosystems that we have in play are our OES platforms and our Microsoft platforms today. So today we're going to focus primarily on the left-hand side because this is for OES. We have analogous presentations and go-to-market and stuff around the stuff on the right, but we're not going to focus on that today. So let's talk about how we provide insight and action capabilities in the world of eDirectory and OES. So we have two products that work independently and in concert with each other and in concert with other technologies from OpenText. On the insight side is File Reporter for OES, and on the action side is Storage Manager. So let's talk a little bit about security for a moment. We talked about this idea of application data and unstructured data. One of the things that we try to impress upon people is, particularly people just seem to focus more on application entitlements, protecting applications. I've got my applications covered. I'm doing pretty good on that. Well, and they think they have their data governance requirements covered as well. But in actuality, they may not, because every time, like an application like SAP or Salesforce or you name it, they all have the ability to export data. So basically, the minute you create a report or some kind of extract, a PDF, a CSV, whatever it is, guess what? That becomes a piece of unstructured data. So if you're just really worried about effectively protecting the stuff on the left, you're kind of sticking your head in the sand about what's really going on. So this concept of data access governance is basically to bring the same structure to access control, purpose-based access control, ability to apply zero trust, principles of least privilege, separation of duties, and that's really around having the right people having the right access to the right stuff in the right place at the right time. And you see these resources tied to identity and role here, and that's why the impetus there, the drive for that is there. So as we move forward, just one more thing about access, and we'll actually get into some of the meat of the presentation, is what we try to help people solve with access to unstructured data is some of the big rocks and some of the basic things that happen every day. So meeting, the big rocks might be meeting compliance requirements for that regulated data, or inside and external threats as based on the risk they pose to this high value data, the crown jewels. So these are kind of the big rocks. But then, we all live in this world of anarchy and permissions management. Give somebody access for, because you're working together for a little while and you never take it away, or somebody changes jobs. So just basic fundamentals of insight into who has access to what and how is a big problem to be solved, especially in the sophisticated environments that you all manage every day. Then there's kind of on the business side of things, people not continue to have access they no longer need, or people can't do their jobs. From a business person, lay person's perspective, they may say, well, I need Tom to have the same access as Sue has. We just hired Tom. How do we make that happen? So, kind of moving on, passing audits on access. These are things that we all have to do. Line of business data stewardship is a big thing. offloading IT, but the main thing is this structured, this erosion of control over time, this entropy that we all experience. It's almost like, you're a closet, if you will. The longer my closet goes, the more disarray that is created. So how do we keep that from happening? So moving on to history and evolution. So some of these, some of this will be interesting, especially to some of you on the phone that I've known for 20 plus years. So if we kind of look at the timeline, so this product line has been evolving for a long time, gone through many iterations and generations and regimes down here on the bottom. I started out, my involvement with Novell started way back in the 90s actually, and so I used to be in academia from a management standpoint, from a customer standpoint, and so kind of evolved along the lines here, along the way, not only based on the products themselves, but also the market requirements, the underlying technology requirements. It's been a great journey, and I've really been privileged to spend it with a lot of you on the phone. So in the early history, the way we kind of structured the deliverables was basically a one size fits all, least common denominator, everything in a box. So, we started out building on NetWare. That's how we started. And then we added some AD stuff and we stuck it all in the box. Then we had File Reporter come along, and we built obviously the analogous reporting infrastructures for this, and we put it in a suite together, and everything was great because we were really focused on we weren't as focused. We were focused on the basics at that time. So, but what has happened over time is that we have had to address evolution at pace. So that means that the product evolution granularity needs to be there, and the delivery evolution granularity needs to be there. So we don't just live in this, world. I would have been fine living in the world of NSS and eDirectory. That's where I grew up in identity management. But the problem and opportunity set for this platform is different than the problem and opportunity set for this platform and this one and these. So what we wanted to try to do is create granularity to allow the product to evolve based on the problem and opportunity sets that present themselves, and let the delivery evolve along those same granular lines. So as we move forward, and we aren't doing Google or Box or things like that, but we're trying to set that precedent so that we can deliver on these other platforms. So this granularity gives us flexibility for alignment, because based on that problem and opportunity set differences, the customer journey is different, which means the feature functionality needs to align to the customer journey. We need to have our pricing aligned to our feature functionality. We need to have our SKUs aligned to that, and our entitlements. So with that being said, we have undergone an evolution from this everything in the box standpoint. So in 2018, we split out the Microsoft deliverable to File Dynamics so that Storage Manager can continue its own evolution along the way for eDirectory based on the problem and opportunity set for that platform. And that's kind of what's happened up here. So today, this really should say File Dynamics 24.4. We'll see that in just a minute. So we have a new Storage Manager today, actually, Storage Manager 24.4. File Reporter was a little bit more tricky in terms of how it worked. We split the deliverables back here in 2020, but we didn't actually split the product name and everything. So we've finally done that, so that File Reporter for OES is a first-class citizen as of today. So I'm very excited to talk to you about about this today, because it's a great time. So so as we kind of move forward here, we one of the problems we had was we had this kind of left here, but we never took the AD stuff out of it. Well, now the AD stuff is out. It's completely dedicated to OES and eDirectory infrastructures. So as we sit here today, our status for 24.4 is that we have File Reporter for OES and Storage Manager, both 24.4 in our what we refer to as Heritage Novell, but our eDirectory OES infrastructure that we all grew up in. And then we have our Microsoft platform deliverables here with File Reporter and File Dynamics. We don't have an action. We have reporting against 365 in Azure AD, but we don't have basically an action engine for this yet, but it's coming. But staying focused here, let's talk about, for those of you that are maybe don't even know what these products do. Let's talk about what they do. So File Reporter for OES. So let's get into it here. So if I had more time, we would do a demo and things like that, but hopefully we can connect on this so that we can dig into this a little bit more than just this overview. But this is the new File Reporter for OES 24.4 when you're and when you're connecting to it. Now, what can you do with it? What's its mission? Well, it's going to inventory our file systems and not only our file systems, but our directory services infrastructure, pull all of that together, and so that we can have detailed intelligence, so that you can more effectively do your job from a management standpoint, optimize your environment, put things in place to make things run really well and be compliant. So it's going to examine and report on large scale enterprise data sets, billions of files in some cases. And then, hopefully what we're going to be able to do from this is discover areas of where things aren't the way you want them to be. Compliance could be an externally motivated thing, or you may just have rules around how you want your data to be managed and accessed, and you may be out of compliance with your own rules. And then basically, if making sure that you have the confidence that you have things right. So help provide evidence of compliance, again, internally or externally motivated, whatever that is, from a management and access standpoint. So how File Reporter for OES works is pretty simple. So basically, we're going to go out and we're going to collect data. We're going to have different types of scans. We may be worried about security. We may be worried about metadata and content. We may be worried about both. So you're able to set up these scan policies to go out and inventory these systems, either directly by putting an agent on the system or by using a proxy. So we don't require that the agent be local in order to scan. And then obviously that's required for NAS devices and clusters and things like that. So basically, as these scans come in, they're going to be stored. They're stored in a database, obviously. We need that for modeling. And then we can pull information based on what, we can run these kinds of reports. And we're going to talk about those in a little bit more in just a minute. We have basically a built-in reporting built-in report generation subsystem, and an analytics platform. So this is about the analytics platform here. When you set up, you're going to get information about the scans that you have put in, the report definitions. So you go in and create reports. You can use built-in reports. There's varieties of built-in reports here around permissions and metadata and trending and comparisons, so you can see what's changed. Where did my storage go? That kind of thing. But then when you get those reports, what can you do with the data? Well, you can export it. You can basically view it. You can also take that data and do other things with it, act on it, but that's outside of the scope of today. But if the built-in reports that we provide aren't up to exactly what you want, we actually have custom queries. So we have a report designer. You can design your own custom reports and go out there and investigate in the way that you want to. Another thing that is interesting is the data. We publish the database schema and connectivity to it, so you can plug other tools like Power BI into that data. We've been doing that. We're starting to publish some Power BI templates and things that we built. But if you use Tableau or some other investigational tools into data, you can plug those in. So some of the security reports might be an identity-based report. So for this particular person, I want a report of everything they have rights to, directly or indirectly, what those are and how they got them. So this would be an indirect, because this user is part of the administrators, our IT administrators group. You can also look at it from a target standpoint. For this particular set of data, I want to know everybody that has any kind of access to that and how they're getting it. Specific direct user assigned permission reports, that would be a custom kind of a custom query report that you could do. When you get on into the UI itself, you're going to see various report types, whether it's built-in like permissions by path, or assigned NCP permissions, or extension reports, that different built-ins, or custom reports, those kinds of things. So then when you're but this is actually a picture of the report designer, and you can go in if you want, you can build any query, you can do anything that you might imagine. So as you're looking at the data that's coming out of here, how is my data aging? What kinds of data are we dealing with here? Duplicate files, owner details for particular person, those kinds of things. So that's kind of a tour of File Reporter. Okay, Storage Manager is the action engine. So as you logging into Storage Manager 24/4, you're into this interface. So Storage Manager, its mission is to manage your data, automate the stuff that you've been doing by hand, contain your IT growth, offload IT, make sure that we are applying uniform compliance to our data access governance, improve things for restructuring data, all kinds of things that you might want to do, and then tying file management into your identity system. There's all kinds of little one-off things that people want to do. I'm not going to read all these, but you can kind of just, whether you want to delete or archive, when people leave the organization, find orphaned data, do load balancing, redistribute things. So Storage Manager has a whole set of features that have evolved over time. I'm not gonna talk about all these, but just real briefly, lifecycle management of user home directories. This is what we started out bread and butter years and years ago. And then we added on group storage, managing, how do we manage teams and or teams of data or groups of data, groups of users, I'm sorry, working together. And then, auxiliary storage, quota management, grooming, trustee, global statistics. How do we redistribute? We have action object interface, all kinds of stuff along the way here that I don't have time to cover. I'm going to cover a couple of things here. The first thing is this bread and butter thing where home folder management or home directory management. So this slide is not the one that I was hoping to show. But anyway, this should say eDirectory here. It's the same concept. But, as people are coming into being created and moved around, as things are happening on the network, we're watching for it. So if we set up policies, we can provision personal storage or collaborative storage, personal storage in this case, and then set the permissions on it and then manage it for the life cycle. And we'll talk about that all the way through to cleanup or archiving at the end. So how Storage Manager works is the first thing is we're monitoring directory services. So we're watching for things happening, users being created, moved, renamed, deleted, groups being created, people added or removing from groups. And then when we see those events, we pass those into the engine. The engine has policy constructs put in place, and it around user storage policies or collaborative storage policies. And then we actually decide, okay, do we need to take some action based on the policies to automate things? So we're going to provision, we're going to manage for the life cycle. Now the engine may do some of the work itself, or we have a network of agents that are out there. So it's going to delegate out to those agents a little bit like we saw with File Reporter for the scans, but it's going to, but in this case, it's actually taking action. So this becomes much like an orchestra conductor with all of the agents out there doing the work. So what kind of work are we doing? Well, policies are assigned to directory services. So they may be assigned to groups or containers or even individual users. We're managing home folders or home directories, collaborative storage areas. And again, we're based on those event triggers. So let's talk about what it might look like. So in this case, we have some home directory policies. In our organization, in our ACME here, we have 2 OUs. We have San Francisco and Boston. So we have rules for where and how we want our home directories managed in Boston, and the same thing for San Francisco. So the policy has all kinds of attributes, rules that you put into it. But one is like where things go, where should the data be stored. So as a new user is created, we'll see that as an event and say, oh, well, this policy applies to users in Boston. These are the rules. So we'll create the home folder and set the rights and all that stuff there. Load balancing, we can actually add multiple paths to the policy, and then as new users come, we can load balance across these things. Now, restructuring, we may want to deprovision server 37. So we just remove the link in the policy, run a backfill or manage operation. It's going to automatically move the data and the rights and change the home directory attribute, everything that you would have to do by hand. We can put tiering and grooming in place. Here, we can migrate. So if a user moves from Boston to San Francisco, we see that as an event and say, oh, well, the policy in San Francisco applies. It dictates quota, rights, where the data should be located. So we're actually going to move the data just by moving. So you're basically just taking action in directory services, and we're handling all the file system stuff on the back end. Renaming, rename the user. We're going to rename the folder, change the home folder, change the home directory attribute. Deprovisioning or vaulting. Set up vaults in the policies if you want. Then when users go away, we can move the data to the vault, keep it there for some amount of time, delete it. It's really based on the policy. So one of the cool things is you can retroactively apply policy. So that means you saw when I pull that link off of this Boston policy up here, you know, we were able to bring the storage and the security into line. Well, if you go in and just create a policy and point it to Boston and do the same thing, it's going, no matter where the users are, how the rights are set up, it's going to pull all that data and aggregate it and pull it into line based on the rules that are in the policy. Auxiliary storage is a cool thing. Basically, maybe you have different folders that need to be managed for each user. So maybe one for HR or one for the IT department for application data or something like that. So auxiliary policies allow you to layer multiple store and manage multiple pieces of storage for each user based on the life cycle. Over on the collaborative real quick, we'll talk about that. So the collaborative storage policies are life cycle the same way, but we're setting up storage for groups. So the simple, you know, simply it would be the same thing when you create a group, it's going to create storage for that group. What's interesting is the templates. If we use templates or dynamic template processing in here, it allows us to be very creative in terms of what that storage looks like and how it's managed. So, so there's kind of 5 steps to setting this up. I'll just walk through and give you an idea of what this even means. So the first thing is, let's just say that we want some uniform approach to how we're managing our projects in this area of the company or the organization. So we're gonna create this template right here, this folder structure, and we can create it, and we can create any structure in there that we want. I just have one here where, you know, we want each team member to have their own personal folder in here. We want the project owner to have his or her own personal folder or folders in here, and we have an approved documents area. So then we create this template. We set up 3 objects in eDirectory: group dash owner dash member dash, and we set the permissions that for each group that's going to be using this, what permissions would we like them to have. So then once that's done, we set up our policy. So we have our policy pointed to a place in directory services and eDirectory, pointed to our template, and pointed to where we want this storage to be set up. And again, you could load balance it. You could have multiple paths if you want there. But then it's pretty easy to deal with. So you basically just create a group any way you want, and it's going to create that folder structure, copy this template in, and then it's watching this group. So when we're watching this group, if we add an owner or add members to the group, we're dynamically creating these folders and setting the rights and everything based on what was set up in the template. So that allows us to be very creative in managing collaborative storage for the life cycle, and you can retroactively apply policy in much the same way that we saw on the home folders. Now, there's a lot that you can do here within this product. I've just hit some of the high points, some of the easy stuff. So you can go in and make a difference for your organization really quickly. there's other types of actions like moving data around or moving data on a schedule, things like that, that in the data management section that I didn't get a chance to cover and things like that. But these are some of the managed actions that you can do. Enforcing that policy path or applying grooming rules. So you set up, okay, I want temp files to be deleted after 7 days, all these things that you want to do. Or you can go back and get storage in line, all kinds of things that you might want to do. And it's basically taking this massive action against maybe even tens of thousands of people and their data at one time. When we set up a policy, we kind of set up this is just kind of the part of the UI where we see the templates and our cleanup rules, our vaulting rules, our grooming rules, where we want it to be, when data can move around. You may not want data moving around in the middle of the day, things like that. So there's a lot to this product, but basically that's going to give us a little bit of giving us an overview here. So you see different kinds of policies, almost kind of like the scan policies and the report types that we saw over in File Reporter. So with that, I'm at 52 minutes after the hour, which was kind of my goal. I can talk about I'll talk about Kanaka just for a second. Again, I want to try to come back at the end, I'm sorry, not at the end, in another session and talk about the new release that we have there in a little bit more detail. But before I end here and do that, I want to just finish up by looking at some materials that we have available. We're in the middle of rebrand. So we are there's things in a lot of flux right now within go-to-market at OpenText with all products, but especially what we're trying to do. So we have some new materials that have been rebranded. Here's a new file reporter for OES, product overview flyer, a piece of collateral for the whole suite. And specifically tied to OES. We have one for Storage Manager. These are not published onto the site yet because it had to do with 24/4, and we just happen to be doing this on the day that 24/4 launches. So we're trying to get stuff done. But I wanted to put my email address and Buck's here. So Buck he's the father of all of this content, and also wanted to point you to we have dedicated sites for our team: File Reporter for OES support.com and Storage Manager support.com. Obviously, you go through technical support to get support, but we try to have this site out here as a little bit of a clearinghouse. These are in flux right now, and they're being kind of overhauled. I was hoping to be done with that by the time we did this presentation, but unfortunately, no. So I've got about 5 minutes left before we end. So I want to talk just real briefly about Kanaka. Kanaka for Mac is basically the Mac client for Mac OS or OS 10, depending on your nomenclature. So we have a new version of Mac OS that's come out from Apple just in the past few weeks, about a little over a month ago. And then we were trying to get interlock on that with the with that release and OES 24/4. We have some updates that we need to do. Apple is a little challenging to deal with because they'll change things on you at from the last beta. All feature functionality will go away, break, things like that. So we really try to line up with the the production release. So we've got some things we've been pretty slammed as a group with all of these software releases, because we not only did File Reporter for OES and Storage Manager, but we did File Dynamics and File Reporter for the Microsoft infrastructures, all in the last week. So it's been a very hectic time for us. With that, I want to kind of just see if there's some Q&A on File Reporter and Storage Manager, that things that I might be able to address in the last 4 minutes that we have now.
4 minutes. Wow. Oh, okay, Buck, you go ahead. I was going to.
David, I've been trying to answer them in the Q&A. We've had a few, and I think I've answered all of them. We did get a recent one about where can we download the new version of Kanaka or find it in the customer center. I don't know that answer. So
yeah. So the Kanaka should be showing up in the SLD under OES. We'll obviously put the new version there as soon as we have it and make an announcement about that. But it should be showing up under your OES entitlements. If it's not, contact somebody in operations, or or just contact us and we'll try to help. We'll try to help.
Is it on Marketplace as well?
Yeah, so that's a thing, Garish, we want to do for this new release. We're going to put it on Marketplace right beside the Windows client.
Okay, great. So keep an eye out on Marketplace, and then anyone can download it, any of your users or whatever. They don't need to authenticate. Don't they think they need to authenticate? They may need to get it. Any other questions out there, Buck?
Oh, I think I've answered all of them. I hope I have. I hope everyone's been happy with the answers.
Oh, there was one about My Files on Filer and using that. It depends on whether My Files is coming from OES or you're using personal storage. Yeah, and I think I'd like your 10 reasons why Filer customers should have File Reporter. The very first slide in my 90-slide deck I use for my securing Filer workshop is about File Reporter. So.
Okay, great. Well, Robin, thank you so much for having me today, and Buck and I, and really enjoyed being here and speaking to the group.
Well, thank you very much for coming along, and thank you to Buck and Ed in the background helping out. And we'll see you next month on the OES product update call in November. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Cheers. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.